Bible Study 2025 is back in effect. We start Bible study this week dealing with trauma or overcoming trauma. I think one of the things that we've talked about in the past and preparing ourselves for this season of Bible study is that everyone has experienced some type of trauma. You've experienced trauma in your childhood. You've experienced trauma as an adult. You've experienced trauma in your family. You've experienced trauma in relationships. You've experienced trauma on your job, trauma as a child growing up in a house with an abusive parent. There's all types of trauma out there. And I want to do everything in my power with God's grace to come into this Bible study session or series and help us to overcome the trauma that we're dealing with. I say this often, sometimes we believe that people are just behaving like the devil or they just got the devil in them. But sometimes that's not what it is. Sometimes they've just been hurt, they've been broken, and they've been wounded and have never gone through the healing process. And so maybe there are some principles that God will give this pastor to share so that we can help you overcome some of the trauma that you've experienced in your life. Get ready for Bible Study 2025, Overcoming Your Trauma. God bless you.
Let's go in the prayer room. Let's go there. Everybody stand up. Come on. Listen here, y'all. I don't know if you've ever been in the room before, but whatever you need is in the room. It's in the room. All you got to do is come on down. Come on in the room. Oh, come on in the room. Jesus is my doctor, and he writes up all of my prescriptions, and he gives me all of my medicine. Come on, it's in the prayer room, yeah. In the prayer room. Come on in the room. Come on in the room. Jesus is my doctor, and he writes up all of my prescriptions. He gives me all of my
Ready? Trauma it is. You know what's traumatizing? Me standing here in front of you. I'm traumatized. I am. Do you know that standing before people is not an easy thing? Do you know that not just that, but trying to please everybody and make everybody happy? That's traumatizing. I just want to know, have you ever experienced trauma trying to make everybody in your house happy? Yeah. I hear some no, but you probably have, because sometimes people experience trauma and they don't know it. Okay, let me say that one more time. Some people experience trauma and they have no idea that they've experienced trauma. Let me share this with you because it was kind of on my mind as I was making my way here. I was thinking about this. Have you ever had somebody share with you, or even maybe you said it to yourself, that you brought up your children in the church, grandchildren in the church, you did all the right stuff, you brought them to Sunday school and all of that, and you don't understand how they ended up crazy? I mean, you said it. You said it. I mean, not maybe not you, but people have said that. You know what I'm saying? They've said that. They said, man, you know, I've done the best I could do. I brought them every Sunday. I made sure they were in Sunday school. I made sure that when they went to bed at night, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my... Everybody know that prayer. And then they still ended. Have you ever thought that maybe somewhere along the way that they've experienced some type of trauma? And it could be, watch this, trauma that we initiated. And we had no idea we did it. I said something to you, I said something to you, I made reference to something last week, and I've said this in other places that I've been. Imagine how traumatizing it is, although you had to do what you had to do. Imagine how traumatizing it could be. I've said this to you before. Imagine how traumatizing it could be. I've said it about 10 times. Imagine how traumatizing it could be. I'm going to say it 101 times today. Imagine how traumatizing it can be to spank a child. I'm just wondering. I'm just wondering how traumatizing that is for a child to actually put our hands on them or go get a switch off the tree. It's traumatizing walking out of the house to go get the switch that you're getting ready to pull off so somebody could whoop your rear end with it. That's trauma. Okay, let me ask the question. Maybe I'm wrong. Has anybody ever had to walk out of the house? Had you ever had to go get your own switch to get whooped with? You have? You've had? Can I ask you a question? Was that traumatizing? I mean, when you walked out going, no, okay, I understand. This is what you did. You said, dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. Let me go get this switch because they're going to get me. Hey, 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 ho, 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 hey, hey. Here it is. All right. Do what you got to do. Ho, ho. You didn't do that. You, man, for some people, now, I don't know if you were like, if you were like Brother Brimfield, you probably went out and it probably took about an hour to go back, and then you got a little old tiny one, only for them to go back and say, that's not gonna work. We're gonna get the whole tree. Yeah. That's traumatizing. I just remember, and I've shared this with you, my father saying, because he was true to his word. That's one thing I get my father, not that my mother wasn't. My mother was a little softer than my father, probably like most mothers are sometimes with their sons and their boys. But I see some of you saying, no, I wouldn't. If my mother told you she was going to get you, I said this, if she was going to get you, when we get home, we were praying, Lord, we pray she forgets. No. Maybe she'll go home and get something to eat and go to sleep. But my father was the complete opposite. He never forgot. He never forgot. There have been times, Sister Fields, that my father would come in the room when we were in the bed, and he would say, you know what? Don't I owe you something? And we thought we had gotten away with it. The day was over. I remember growing up and all three of us would get it and we would have to wait in line. Anybody ever have to wait in line? We had to wait in line. My older brother got it first. I got it second. And then by the time my father finished with me, the baby boy, now y'all have seen, baby boy would fall all out on the ground screaming and crying, and the belt never even touched him before he could even get it. But here's my point. Here's my point, Dr. Johnson. My point is that when we were waiting in line, that was traumatizing. And I'm going to tell you why. Because we could hear what was going on in that room. I mean, we heard switch, movement, and hollering. And when he came out, I was next. And then, of course, that's why baby boy was all on the ground, scrambling around, falling all over the place. I don't know if that was a trick or not, Because my father never put as much into him as he did us. So I thought one day that I would try it. Look at somebody say, it didn't work. It didn't work. I guess my only point in that can be traumatizing. It really can. I mean, we believe, spare the rod, spoil the child. We believe that if we do what we do, that it's going to make them behave and act better. Here's my question that I would even ask some of us, and I asked last week. So does that mean that when we get older and we get grown that we don't get the belt anymore? Because when we get older, we still do bad stuff. Just like when children do. Children get a whooping, but grown folk don't get whoopings no more. I'm just asking, does that make just a little sense? I mean, if I cut up as a child and I got it, if I cut up as an adult, I don't get it no more. It's over. I mean, you don't understand what I'm saying. I mean, if a child talks back, they get it. Sister Lee, they get it. But if you talk back as an adult, you don't get it. What's the difference? Y'all got real quiet on me. Listen, because it would be traumatizing if we cut up and there was a belt driver or a person who carried around a belt that would whoop us every time we did something wrong as adults. And when I say wrong, I ain't talking about police get arrested wrong, because there's some stuff people do wrong, they don't get arrested. People do it all the time. Can I give you an example? Ring, ring, ring. Hello? Yes, I am looking for Mrs. Rimbert. Is she there? No, she don't live here. I mean, not that she did that, but that would be dishonest. That wouldn't be true, right? And so Sister Rimbert, you got to come up and let me see who's going to get the belt to do that. Let's see. Sister Austin is going to get the belt. And so I guess my point in that, those are things I always want people to think about. Because sometimes we behave the way we behave based on our experiences. Our formative years help to develop who we really are. I was reading an article not too long ago, and it talks about the first 3 years of a child's life. Whatever they get in those first 3 to 5 years will determine what's going to happen to them later on down the road. Because watch this, they watch us. They learn from us. I don't. Do you know that even when you're in the bedroom and the door's locked and the lights are off at night and everybody is chilling and you carrying on a conversation, do you know that when you think they sleep, they up? You know why? Because somebody has a testimony in here. Here's your testimony. You weren't asleep when your parents thought you were asleep. I know I wasn't. I mean, some of you all probably did like I did. They would come in the room to make sure you were asleep, and you would fake like you sleep. Because we may have been in there playing or something. I mean, it was 3. We were the straight up Brady Bunch when we were growing up. Brady Bunch house. When I say Brady Bunch, just how we slept. There was a bunk bed. It was me and baby boy and another bed on the other side. That was my older brother. And so we all slept in the room together, and we cut up together. So, and I don't know what it was. Mom had some radar on her that she knew that even when we tried to fake like we were asleep, she knew it, because she would open up the door and we'd act like we were asleep. She said, I know you're not sleeping. I mean, she would say it. I always say, I'm going to pause here for a second and say, women have something very powerful that men have, but that men don't know how to work, and they have not really developed it within their spirit, but women got it, and it's this powerful spirit called a spirit of discernment. That you can be in the kitchen, you can be washing those dishes, and you on the phone talking all at the same time and doing what you're doing, and all of a sudden you say, hold on, baby, for a second. Y'all better not be, let me go back in that room. You understand what I'm saying? So we experience all of this, and so sometimes things happen in life, and sometimes you did the best you could. You didn't necessarily break out belts and all those kinds of things, and even if you did, sometimes we still do the best we can, and they end up where they end up. But trauma finds its way into our lives, again, even when we don't realize it. Even when we don't realize it. I never knew until I was a little bit older how much my parents' divorce affected me. I didn't realize that until I got a little bit older. I didn't realize that at all. I didn't realize that at all. At all. I didn't realize it. And so I had to deal with that growing up. Sometimes children and young people are affected by some of the stuff that we do, and we think they're fine, but they're really not fine. They've never gone to talk to a counselor. They've never had any help, especially, I always say, especially men, because men don't think we need it. I'll say it again. Men don't think, you know what I'm saying? Even in relationships, in marital relationships, if the relationship kind of gets a little rocky and the spouse comes, the wife says, I think we need to talk to somebody. A lot of times what a brother will say is, we don't need to talk to nobody. You just do what I tell you to do, we're going to be all right. I mean, he may not say it like that, but that's the thought. Look at somebody and say, everybody needs to talk to somebody. Everybody needs to talk to somebody. Everybody needs to have a conversation. Otherwise, you hold it in. And a lot of times, if you hold stuff in, it will eventually explode. And then the drama or the mess or the trauma, it gets worse. Yeah. When I look at the Bible, I see so many traumatic stories in the Bible. So many of them. When you start looking at some of the biblical characters and some of the stuff they went through, that's got to be traumatic. It's got to be traumatic when the woman at the well meets Jesus, and the reason why she's there and she shows up at the time of the day that she shows up, because she is considered to be a social outcast and an embarrassment. So she goes there when nobody else is there to get water. And then she runs into Jesus, and Jesus even has a conversation about her, talking about how many husbands you got and the one you married to ain't yours. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? That story in itself, that's traumatic. I mean, that's traumatic. I think I said last week, traumatic. It's traumatic for them to throw you into a fiery furnace. To know that that's what they're going to do before they do it. That's traumatic. Daniel being thrown into a lion's den. That's traumatic. Because you already know what's going to happen when you get thrown in there. Because they weren't the first thrown in. Just like Jesus wasn't the first that was crucified. That was capital punishment in Rome. You understand what I'm saying? So other people were crucified. So you already knew. Even Jesus in the garden was traumatized because he said, Daddy, if it's possible, I don't want to die. Let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not that. And then experience. I always say, me personally, when I look at that particular text, I think what was traumatizing was not the hanging on the cross, but knowing that he was going to the cross and he was in the garden and he was traumatized because he was praying as drops of blood were coming down his face. That's traumatizing. I mean, how about blind Bartimaeus on the side of the road? I mean, your life is begging on the side of the road. That's traumatizing. He didn't have a 9-to-5. He had to beg on the side of the road to get what he needed to get. That's traumatizing. I'm sharing all of this with you to say that everybody in this building right now has experienced some type of trauma. And not just you, people in your family, your friends, your co-workers, all these folk have experienced trauma. And if trauma is not dealt with, the results are what you constantly see when you think people on the job are crazy. They just been traumatized. People you sit next to on Sunday, you think they crazy. They just been traumatized. Those kids that you said, I know they crazy. They take after their daddy. That's why they crazy. They take after their mama. They crazy. No, they've been traumatized. And so it is our job as believers to help people not deal with trauma, but overcome trauma. Because there's a difference. Dealing with it keeps me in the space. Overcoming it removes me from that space. And so our job is to help people overcome it. Here it is. A whole lot of marriages and relationships have been ripped asunder. Why? Because of trauma. That's all it is. That's why I was sharing with you not long ago that one of the things that I'd love to do with marriage counseling, if I get the time to really do it the way I want to do it, is I think people need to know all the dirt about the person they marrying. Okay, y'all didn't hear what I said. All the dirt. Good, bad, and what? The ugly. You need to know everything. You need to know about their mama, their daddy, their cousins, who they were married to, who they were connected to, because can I tell you this? You getting all that. Okay, you missed what I said. You getting, well, I didn't marry all of them. I just married him. Yeah, you married everybody, all them people they connected to. You married them too. And even if you don't see them all the time, they got bits and pieces of all of them inside of them. That's why you need to know. So that you can make a decision of whether or not you want to move forward with that. If that makes sense. And knowing it up front helps us sometimes, or in most instances, to be able to deal with some of the challenges that they may have. Nothing but a conversation. Let's talk. Let's talk. Trauma. Look at somebody, say trauma, trauma, trauma. Look at your neighbor. I don't want you to say anything. Just look at him. Don't say, okay, don't look at him no more. Look at the person on the other side real quick. Don't look at him no more. You just looked at somebody that's experiencing trauma in their lives. You just saw it. Now, I would tell you to do this, but everybody doesn't have one. If you had a mirror, I would say take out a mirror and look at yourself. When you got up this morning, you looked in the mirror, you saw somebody who experienced trauma. And so it is my plight to not only talk to you about the different types of trauma, but also to have some conversation with how to overcome it. That's my plight. That's my job, with the help of the power of God to help us overcome that and to deal with it. Last week, I gave you 3 different types of trauma. Do you remember that last week? Last week I gave you, well, first of all, let me just say this again. I said I gave a percentage. Do you remember the percentage I gave of how many women experience trauma in America? How many? 50? And men were what? So you mean to tell me men experience more trauma? Okay, I'm just checking. It ain't too far, I mean, that's, but can I just say, again, in essence, we all got it. We all got it. Look at somebody, say PTSD, PTSD, PTSD. Everybody, oftentimes growing up, when I would hear the word PTSD, it was always associated with military. It was. Still is. But there are a whole lot of people in here not in the military got PTSD. What does it stand for? Post? Ah, you know it. You know why you know it? Look at somebody say, because I got it. That's real talk. I mean, when I say all of us, I'm not only talking about you, I'm talking about me. We all got it. We've all had something that happened. I just shared with you a few moments ago the trauma of my parents saying, we not together no more. And I think what became traumatic for me is because I never in my life saw my parents ever fight each other. Never. Not one time. Maybe they were duking it out behind closed doors. I don't know. But never. Not one time. So it was a shock to me. It shocked the very core of me because I did not understand it. And here's the other thing that I think should happen too. I think if people determine that that's the direction that they're going to go, that they should also make sure that their children receive counsel. Because it happens, it's, and this is what we do. We do this. Well, it has nothing to do with you. It's just that, we love you all, but yeah, but some young folk don't understand that. And so, absolutely. So we've got to work on that. So, all right, the American, we said Psychological Association defines trauma as an emotional response to a terrible event. An emotional response to a terrible event. Okay, I'm going to say that one more time. An emotional response to a terrible event. Let me ask you the question. I need you to be honest with me. Have you at least once in your life experienced a terrible event? At least one time? One time. So if you have, there's been an emotional response to that event. Do you know you can have an emotional response and not even realize it to a disaster that didn't happen to you? I have to contain myself. I have to contain myself right now because I almost lost it. I have to contain myself. I almost lost it. When I say almost lost it, I almost broke down just now. I had to contain myself. Whenever I'm watching TV and they put on TV Children's Hospital and they start showing those babies that are suffering from cancer and sickness, it breaks my heart. You know when they start interviewing the parents, and then all of a sudden the parents start crying, and then it makes me think about my children and how they didn't have to experience that. I don't even understand what you're going through, but I'm broken, or I feel broken just like you. That's traumatizing, not just to the parents, but to some of us that are watching. Man, I know that's right. That's hard. That's hard. Now, my daughter, I always, chuckle with my daughter, because my daughter cannot watch, when they start showing the animals that are abused on TV. She can't. That breaks her little spirit. It does. It can be traumatizing to us. It is, again, an emotional response to a terrible event, like, anybody ever been in an accident? Okay. Anybody been in an accident? We talk about rape because it's here. Natural disasters. Short-term responses are typically shock and denial, while long-term responses can include unpredictable emotions, flashbacks, strained relationships, and even physical symptoms. This is what happens to folk that have been traumatized. They think they just got a headache. I just got up with a headache. Let me help you. Here it is. Headache. Look at somebody, say headache. 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 How about nausea? I need to go to the doctor. Talk to the doctor. I'm feeling some kind of way. Stress. Stress. Look at somebody, say stress. Trauma, stress. Trauma, stress. Trauma, stress, anxiety, all sleep in the same bed together. And let me just say this. In some instances, the Lord just dropped it in my spirit. To overcome or to get rid of sometimes means that we have to remove ourselves from some people and some places and some situations. Remember last week I kind of talked about, I said, oh, we got friends, and sometimes friends bring trauma to us. I mean, they're good friends. They didn't do anything to us, but the way they behave and the way they act, it creates trauma in us. And sometimes we don't even realize that that's what happens. All right, let me keep on going. Trauma is a very complicated kind of harm that can result from a wide variety of events or circumstances and is frequently a result. We said this is true, real talk, frequently a result of domestic violence. Now, this is what I tell anybody. Anybody that's in a domestic violence situation, I don't care where you are, get out. Okay, let me say that one more time. Anybody that's in a domestic violence situation, get out. You know why? Because you may end up dead. Okay, I'm going to say that one more time. Anybody that's in a domestic violence, I said violence situation, you better get out, and you better get out quick. Because you might lose your life. And your life is more valuable than laying next to somebody at night just to keep you warm. Can I help you? They got blankets that you can turn on and they get warm at night. Look at somebody, say, I got one. They keep you warm at night. But you don't need to be around nobody that's putting their hands on you. Nobody. Oh, they were just having a bad day. Because not even death, but that in itself is traumatizing. Not just to the person who's inflicting it, but the people that are around them or in that house or in that space. Children sometimes end up doing the same thing as a result of what they see growing up. And they say, I'm never going to put my hands on nobody like my mama or my daddy did. And the next thing you know, down the road, 20 years later, look at somebody say the same thing. So here it is one more time. Domestic violence is one thing we just say, we can't do that. We can't do that. I mean, even verbal abuse. I mean, that's, man, telling you how ugly you are. You ain't nothing. You ain't ever going to be nothing. Don't make me smack you in your face. And you know what I'm saying? People say stuff like that to people. Get on my nerves. Every time I come in here, food ain't ever ready. It ain't right. Fix another plate. Ooh, I can feel some hissing. This is a hiss. Ooh, this is fire. Yeah, but it may not be any of us, but it's true. It's true. All right, so let's keep talking because I think it's going to help us a little bit. We talked about, number one, we called that what? Acute. And that is a single unexpected event that causes immediate physical and emotional what? Distress. That's number one. Number two is what? Chronic. Chronic trauma is a type of trauma that occurs over a prolonged period or repeatedly. This one, we talked about it, but let me just give you some examples of chronic trauma. We just talked about a second ago. Domestic abuse, ongoing. A long-term illness can be traumatic. Not just for the one who's sick, but the family members who are oftentimes taking care of the one who's sick. That's trauma. It was trauma traumatic when I found out that my father was sick. That was traumatic. The man that I looked up to, that I followed the example of, and I always tease people, say one of the reasons why I love to wear these suits all the time, the way I like to wear these suits is because that's how my daddy dressed. My daddy was a dresser. That's what he was. So I dress all the time because my daddy dressed all the time. That's where, I told you we get what we get, who we are from the people that we grow up around. Y'all missed it. But when I got the news, I'll never forget it. They said, he's memory. He was dealing with all of that, and they were testing to see whether or not he had, Alzheimer's, dementia. And I remember I was leaving. I think it was Bible study, and I got the call from my mom that said what he had, and I'll never forget. I pulled the car over and cried like a baby. Now here I am, bro, pastor. You understand what I'm saying? I told you everybody's got trauma. Everybody, something I had to deal with. But overcome. I did, and I'm saying I'm not by myself in this room. Other people in here that experience the same thing. And some people dealing with some stuff right now in your body or in your family. That's why it says right here, long-term illness, prolonged exposure. Here it is. I said last week, we are in Fayetteville, North Carolina. One of the largest, if not the largest, Army base here. Prolonged exposure to war or combat is traumatic. It's traumatic. Poverty or economic instability, that's traumatic. Not knowing whether or not you're going to have enough money to pay rent next month. That's traumatic. Not knowing whether or not parents have, and I've seen this as a pastor, parents and families that are in need. That's why it's so beautiful that we give gifts and toys away for Christmas so that some kids can experience, a nice Christmas, right? There have been so many people that I've talked to that said, I had no idea how we were going to make it this Christmas, but the church helped us out. Your contributions made a difference not only in an adult's life, but a child's life. Because not only is the child traumatic because their friends at school are getting all these gifts for Christmas, and then they show up with nothing. But now mom has to deal, or dad has to deal with the reality that we don't have enough financial resources to make their Christmas like other folks' Christmas. That's traumatizing. That's traumatizing. Homelessness, that's traumatizing. That's traumatizing. Homelessness, not having anywhere to live or to go, to wash up, that's traumatizing. All of us in here, we going somewhere. I mean, even if we go in the backyard and get a water hose, I mean, we at home. I mean, we home. Some people don't have a home. I mean, really think about that. And I know we minister to the homeless, here, or those that are in need, and maybe some of us have been, but has anybody ever really experienced true homelessness with nothing, nowhere to go, nowhere to live, but under somebody's bridge? That's traumatizing. And if you got kids, and then they send you to shelter, and then sometimes you go over to the shelter and you got to be careful who's laying in the bed next to the bed you laying in. Because you've got children that got to lay in bed too. Traumatizing. What was the name of that movie that Tyler Perry had? Good Deeds. Was it Good Deeds? And the young lady went in there with the kids, and then somebody tried to snatch them up right when everybody was sleeping. That's traumatizing. And it may not be us, but I mean, this particular situation, but the picture I'm trying to paint is that everybody goes through some level of trauma. Toxic friendships. I just mentioned it a few minutes ago. Toxic. I didn't say dating. I said friends. Toxic friendships. Repeated medical emergencies. All right, let me keep on going. That's our chronic term is different from acute trauma, which is a response to a single and intense event. But what I want to do is, I want to just hit number 3 again. Complex trauma oftentimes consists of both of the two we just mentioned wrapped up in one big package. One big package. Here it is. Complex trauma, you wrote it down, I think you did, is the result of exposure, you're going to get it anyway, exposure to multiple traumatic events. Not just one, multiple. Often interpersonal in nature and long-term effects of that exposure. These events are typically severe, they're widespread, and usually occur early in, I just talked about early in life. What did I say? What did I say, if you can recall, traumatized me and my 3 brothers when we were growing up? Get a spanking and you got to get in line. Get in line. Oldest went first. I was in the middle, so I was always second. Always second. And then the baby was always last. And remember, what did the baby do? Yeah, he do the same thing today. Roll all on the ground. The same thing today. Just roll on the ground. Yeah, that's traumatizing. You know, I mean, I can hear my brother in there getting it, and we both outside crying because we know what's next. That's traumatizing. Let me tell you something else that's traumatizing. This is traumatizing. Traumatizing. Well, let me hit the number 2 one, or the second piece I just talked about. What else did I mention in my young years traumatized me? Yes. So I gave just 2 examples of me. We got them in here. We've got examples of that, right? Here's something that's traumatizing. The Lord just dropped it in my spirit. When I show up at church to worship God, and you tell me what I can't do, what I can't have, what I can't wear, when I'm accustomed to doing that every day on the outside. And I do not understand church culture. But I'm coming into y'all missed it. I don't understand church culture, but I'm coming to the church because I know I need Jesus in my life. I mean, I need Jesus, so I'm coming to the church. And what can be traumatizing is getting stopped and somebody says, you can't wear that in the church. Why you got them tattoos? You can't be wearing those. Why you got them earrings all over you? You can't wear that. You can't do that and be an officer in the church. Or you can't do that and be an usher in the church. Guess what? Now you have run them right out of the building. And I promise you there is a church that's going to accept them for who they are. That's dramatic. I'm coming to meet Jesus. Look at somebody say, embrace. Embrace. I tell people all the time, embrace people. They didn't grow up like us. Well, maybe some of them did. we just went through a process of transformation as we were moving along. But people didn't. I mean, some of them didn't grow up in church. I mean, they don't understand church culture. Just like, can I tell you, I didn't understand club culture because I wasn't a clubber. So I didn't understand. I go to the club. If I went to the club, I'd walk in there with a suit on like this. I mean, I wouldn't know. I'm walking up in there. Hey, y'all. And you know what they're going to say? That's a preacher because he got that suit on over there. I don't understand. I don't understand. But can I tell you this? Watch this. If I walked into the club with this suit on, I bet you they wouldn't run me out. They would accept me for who I am. How come the church can't accept people for who they are? Man, look at your neighbor and say, I know that's right. I know that's right. Because they don't know. People don't know. They don't know. And then I always ask myself the question, the things oftentimes that we care about, God is not even interested in. He's not. God's not interested in it. You know, I know for me personally, and I have to work on it personally. You know, and my wife, who's sitting over there, always has to help me. Or she helping my daughter, one of the two. Because, you know, my daughter, she little, you know, and they like to wear them little dresses. And I don't see nothing, Brother Ward, until she show up at church. And I'm looking like, that's an awful short skirt she got on. And here come her mama. Well, you know that's what they wear today. And that's all they sell. They don't really have it. And that's how they go. And da-da-da. And I'm like, yeah. And I always say, but can somebody tell me first? Because I will be traumatized if you don't tell me first. All I'm saying is young people do what young people do, and they're being accepted in a whole lot of places. We ought to accept people wherever they are, whoever they are, into the church, because transformation takes place once they get on the inside. And here it is. How do they transform? How do they transform? Not by what we say, but what we do. What kind of pastor would I be if I tell you one thing and I do something different? I would take my tall self and sit myself down in a corner somewhere until I got myself together. Because I've learned a long time ago that the church ain't mine, it's the Lord Jesus Christ church. And that I, at least as a pastor or a leader or a preacher or a prophet, ought to have enough sense that if I'm not doing something right, to sit myself down. Amen. Y'all miss what I just said. I wish I had 10 people say amen. Somebody say amen. Yeah, I know we all human. I mean, I get that. But we're all striving for perfection. And so as I'm a leader in the, oh, I better put the tablet down now. I'm about to preach. Leadership, all of us, leadership is about demonstrating Christ. Right? You want people to change, be like Jesus. But don't run them out. And we can run them out by words, by behavior, by action. I was doing a workshop not long ago on church growth, and I was dealing with the ushers ministry and hospitality areas, you know, of receiving people. And one of the worst things you can do is when people are waiting to come into church, you tell them, you can't come in here yet. You can't do that. Stay outside. Hold on a second. No. Nah, you have to have a nice conversation with people and let them know, you know, this is what's happening on the inside. And so we're going to let you in just a second. You know, sorry about the hold up, but we're going to get you in this house. That ain't. Or here's another one. I'm talking about trauma for people who come to church that are not members. I told you, here's another one. That's my seat. I mean, y'all missed it. That's my seat. You can't sit there. I've been sitting there since Reverend Rush was the pastor of the church. I've been sitting there. I said, well, yeah, you may have been sitting there that long, but if somebody comes in, welcome. Look, welcome to the temple. Sit right here in this seat. They don't even have to know that was your seat. Because some people, not Simon Temple, but some people, they'll walk right in and sit, and then the other person, if it's their seat, they'll come in and say, you know you can't sit in that seat, right? Man, who cares where people sit as long as you got a seat in the house of God? Does that make sense to y'all? Look at somebody say, don't be that way. Don't be that way. Because again, that could be, I'm going to tell you, it can be traumatizing. And what typically happens, as we're talking, and you know, we're having fun. And you know me, I love to have fun when we're teaching and preaching and having a wonderful time by the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ. It can be so traumatic that once I walk out of the door with my piercings and my tattoos and my short skirt or my pants hanging down, once you've thrown me out, I may never go back to another church again. I may never go back. You do know that if one preacher does something trifling, you do know they look at all preachers the same way. Yeah, if one. I told you that's how they are. They ain't right. It just take one. Y'all miss what I just said. It takes one. Just one. It takes one rotten apple. Oh, y'all heard that same thing too? No, but it takes one rotten member that can spoil somebody's experience in the life of the church. And then again, they leave, and then they go connect with another church that will not treat them that way. Look at somebody say, just be nice. Be nice to everybody. I don't care if they come in here smelling, be nice. Because God sent them here. For what? Transformation. But again, the point of it is, it's traumatic for the person. It's traumatic for somebody to leave and say, I ain't ever going back to another church. They've been traumatized by people who are supposed to love and embrace them. Kicked them right out of the door. So, and I know this is how, watch, this is how you are right here. This is you right here. This is you. If you ever see somebody doing it, I know you're going to fix it. Because I know that's how you are. If you see somebody doing it, you're going to go over and say, that's not how we do what we do. Come on, baby. Come on in here. Come on in here. Come sit in my seat. That's what you're going to do. Because that's how you are, right? Okay, y'all got real quiet on that one. That's how you are. You're engaging. You embrace, right? You're embracing. So no matter what they look like or smell like, you embrace. When they come in, I got you. Come on in. Because if you don't embrace me, it's out there on the wall. If you don't embrace me, then we're not going to have any engagement. If you don't embrace me, I'm not going to talk to you. Why would you talk to somebody that doesn't embrace you? Why would you talk to somebody that looks at you like you crazy? Why would you embrace somebody or have a conversation with somebody that looks at you and say, why are you here? Go back to where you came from. Believe it or not, statistics say that the reason why most people don't stay in a particular church is because of the behavior of the people in the congregation. More so than the preacher in the pulpit. Y'all miss what I just said. They may not even tell you it's you. Y'all miss what not you, but they may not tell the person, you know why I don't come back to church? Because of you. They're going to say, you know why I don't come back to church? Because of that old security ministry. But it's not security ministry, it's really you. You missed what I just said. Did you know that sometimes people don't tell the truth? Sometimes people, okay, y'all didn't know that. Sometimes people, so they don't. They don't. They just say, you know what? You know why I don't come? Cause I don't like that choir. Ain't got nothing to do with the choir. They don't like that usher that's talking to them. Or they don't like that choir member. You understand what I'm saying? So we have the ability to rid that type of trauma that I'm talking about right now. Individually, we got the power. And this is one of the things I've always learned. I've always learned this. And this has always been, the church does not belong to Keith Tillett. Because oftentimes people say, oh yeah, that's your church. No, it ain't. I ain't taking responsibility for nothing that happens in that building. No, I'm just kidding. It's God's church. Upon this rock, I will build my church. He said, and the gates of hell shall not what? So if hell is prevailing against it, it's not his church. Whoo, look at somebody say trauma. See where y'all took me? I only got a couple minutes. Complex trauma, repeated abuse, overwhelming neglect, child maltreatment, human or sex trafficking, I talked about that last week. That stuff is real. I mean, sometimes you walk right past that and you don't even notice it. We don't even notice it. Remember I shared that story with you last week? I was talking about how I was in the midst of something and I had no idea. I was in the middle of it because I was going to lift up prayer for a situation and had no idea that sex trafficking was going on all around me. I had no idea what was going on. I ain't never been to no truck stop in the back with trucks. Remember I told you, I'm walking in there with a suit on. I'm going over there to pray. And I had no idea. I think we saw that in the paper. I think it was in the paper that truck stop, Carrie, that was in the paper where that truck stop, there was, where Love's is right there. There was sex trafficking going. It was in the paper. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm trying to look at the paper and say, is my picture in the background? And that picture walking. I'm over there praying for the truck. I had a member that brought a 18-wheeler truck and wanted the pastor, it was new, wanted the pastor to come to the truck stop because he couldn't take it nowhere else, couldn't take it home, and pray for it, pray over it. And I did that. I was all up in the truck praying for it. Got my oil out and everything. But I wasn't aware that there was some other activity and some other actions going on in there. Not in the truck, I'm talking about in the place. All right. Yeah, we talked about that. Traumatic experiences, we talked about that. Traumatic experience. Remember I told you the woman at the well, traumatic experience. Where we were talking about, Sister Fields, traumatic, David, traumatic, fights Goliath, traumatic, and then cuts his head off. That ain't traumatic. Not only does he cut his head off, but he come walking with it. I just want to know. I mean, I can look at y'all now. Y'all like, oh my God. It's in the Bible. That's traumatic. It's traumatic to have to try to prove yourself to your family that you are worthy of your calling. That's traumatic. Got to prove who you are. That's traumatic. When people ought to embrace you and say, yeah, baby, I'm going to do everything I can to help you make it. Instead of people saying, you ain't everybody, I'm talking about David. Everybody, you ain't the one. You don't have what it takes. So now I got to prove myself. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that next week. I got to prove myself. And how do I prove myself? Where's that dirty, nasty Philistine? I got him. He couldn't even put the armor on. Because it was who said that? It was too big. That in itself can be traumatizing. But he goes out and who knows? I love to look at the Bible in so many different ways. Who knows how scared he was or wasn't? Oh man, he wasn't scared. He got them 3 or 5 stones and he slung that thing and old Goliath fell to his death. Maybe he was just a little nervous. Just maybe. Just maybe. Can I tell you why? Because Jesus knew he had to die. The only way for redemption to happen, he had to die. Had to die on the cross. But it didn't stop Jesus from saying, you know what? And if I don't have to go this way, Lord, let it pass. His words, let it pass. Why would he say that? Why would Jesus say that? Why would Jesus say if it's possible? Sister North, I don't know. Why would Jesus say that? Sister Tasha, why would he say if it's possible, let it go a different way? I wonder why. I wonder was he concerned about dying on the cross? But just for a second, he did it, but just for a second, did he glance in his mind and look back and see all them other folk who had died an excruciating death on the cross and say, like a whole lot of people sitting in here right now, I got about 50 witnesses in here right now who could testify. You probably said it, when I go, I want to go in my sleep. Y'all ain't, I'm just. I don't even want to know. I just want to lay down and just go on to glory. And maybe, I don't know, I'm saying maybe that's where Jesus was for a hot second. Just a hot second. Can we do this a different way? I mean, I'll go, but, you know, can I take some of that stuff that they give you when you get ready to go into surgery and the doctor tells you to count down from 10 to 1 and you can feel it. You can feel the coolness going into your vein, and then all of a sudden you start feeling real nice, and then all of a sudden you go 10. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? That's rough. That's hard. That's traumatic. But look at somebody say, but I can overcome it. I just said on Sunday, I can do. Not some things. That's the only reason why I'm good, because I know that I can overcome all things through Christ, who gives me what? Not my own, but whose? Be thou with us, O God, until we meet again. In Jesus' name, amen. Have a good day. Finish this when we come back. Woo!
Hey, how you doing?